Welcome, everybody. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to our special meeting of council for the 2016-2020 5-year financial plan for Wednesday, January 20th. We have on our agenda this evening Community Services and the Industrial Heritage Society. Had I known it was going to be so well attended, we could have defrayed some costs from council and charged $2 a seat. It would have been good. Okay, Councillor, we have an agenda in front of us. A motion to adopt the agenda is in order.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And believe it or not, our sixth councillor is witnessing what's going on over the internet. We don't let him vote, but he at least can see what's going on. Aren't you, Chris? Now he'll send me a text to confirm that, yes, that he's doing that. Okay. Our first departmental presentation this evening is from Parks, Rec, and Heritage. Teresa Kingston, Director of Community Services.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here tonight to do the budget presentation for Community Services. I do need to say that I've only been in the job 45 days, working days. And it's even though I've worked in the department for many years, this is a lot different role, and I have been out of the department for a while. So I want to appreciate some of the managers and supervisors who are here tonight in case I'm asked questions that I can't answer, or if there's questions, I might defer it to a written report back to you, and that. I want to say that this past 6 months for the department has been one of transition. When the former director, Scott Kenny, retired and then not having someone put in place for a while, there's some things that probably would have gotten done last year that didn't in terms of not having that direction and leadership at the helm. And so in some of the areas we're in catch-up in terms of moving forward on a number of things. One of the changes to the department, in addition to me being the director, is the name change. Before I start in the presentation, I want to say to council, I've left in front of you a hard copy of portions of the financial plan, highlighting the sections, and you would have received this, I think, yesterday. I know that you're going electronic, but because this particular budget presentation is all through those 55 pages, I wanted to make it easier for you in terms of that I can direct you to the area of the budget as we go through the presentation. Okay. So what is Community Services? And it was Parks and Recreation and Heritage, but even when it was Parks, Recreation and Heritage, it was a lot more than that. And so I think it's important to recognize that part of the budget I'll be talking about is management and reception services, buildings and facilities. We talk about parks, but parks is actually playgrounds, parks and trails, heritage and culture, recreation programs and services, and then when I came into this position, I brought over as well the community development work that I was doing before. One of the things I do have to say is you did get a presentation last night, and I have added some slides. I'm not going to be able to be as much detail as the economic development manager did and telling you exactly when and where, but you'll see it as we're going along. One of the ones that I did add was our organizational chart, and just there's been some changes over the past year as well within the organizational chart that council approved in terms of creating 2 positions, one new position and changing a former position that now we're integrating some of the building maintenance in with a facility supervisor role, and so that's some of the changes on there. Question I often get is how many employees are in the Parks and Recreation and Heritage or Community Services. We have 107 employees. Of that, 6 are management, 25 full-time, 26 regular part-time, 27 part-time, and 23 auxiliaries. We also have over 50 contractors who deliver recreation programs. And that move was made a couple of years ago, actually, to make it a lot easier administratively when we're running programs to hire people on a contract just to do that program. So we're not paying CPP, different benefits, and having that administration. You all know what we do, and this is, I'm not going to go through each of these, but it's a lot more than Parks, Recreation, and Heritage. And each of those areas, they oversee and collaborate and partner with a lot of different areas within this community. And one of the things is, while we be looking at the budget in terms of how much this department costs, I think it's also needs to be recognized that the staff in this department provide stewardship over $30 million in assets that belong to the city, being all of the city facilities with the exception of the pump houses and that type of thing. The land improvements, which are the playgrounds, trails, and as well the parklands. And the fixed cost of those, or value of those, at the end of 2014 was over $30 million. So it is providing a stewardship role in maintaining all of the assets that the city has, beyond what you traditionally think of in terms of the Parks and Recreation and Heritage Department. Yes, Ron?
Just go back to the last slide. Down there, the second line from the bottom, it says 2 playgrounds.
Sorry. It should be 12 playgrounds. Sorry.
I thought so.
It's hidden behind when I moved it.
Oh, there it is.
Yes, okay. To get it, yes, sorry, I didn't check that. When I went to add in pickleball court, it threw everything off, which is one of our latest, newest facilities. And I may talk about pickleball a little bit more later on. In terms of this department, I think it's integral in terms of achieving council's vision and strategic plan. And I'm not going to go through all the ways that we do that in your particular goals and objectives. But I think it's really important to recognize the benefits that this department brings to the community, especially around the goal of livability. And I'd also like to say, in terms of economic generator in the community, this department is extremely important in achieving some of the things that you heard earlier today under the Economic Development Manager's budget presentation. When he talked about the opportunity to play, that's what this department does, whether it be intellectual pursuits, physical pursuits, those types of things is really the basis of here. When he talked about attracting millennials and seniors to the community, it's great to attract them, and I really applaud that that's what we need to do. But once they get there, millennials will be looking, what can they do with their families do? Seniors are looking, and one of the things I think why seniors actually move here is because of things like the Sunshine Club, the heritage opportunities, those types of things. So it really is key to a lot of the goals you're trying to achieve as a council. This is the summary of expenses and revenues, and I know that you have a number of different documents that you're looking at, and this one here specifically is looking at what the net costs are of this department. And in the budget, just the physically way the budget is structured is some of those are seen as separate, but this is one department. So the museum and heritage, I've included all of that. I make reference here to the McLean Mill and the Vancouver Island Regional Library, and I know IHS will be doing their presentation, I'd say in a few minutes, but it's going to be longer than a few minutes, sorry. Those 2 budget items come under Heritage and Cultural Services. And so I have not included them in terms of our department because while we collaborate and work in partnership with those, we don't have direct responsibility in the terms of those budget items. So getting to the different areas in the budget. And so in each of these slides, you'll see on the far side, it refers to what page and line. What I've done and what will, if you're trying to track in the financial plan, I am including revenues and expenses on the same page so that you can do some contrasting there. The other thing I've also included in there is a 2014 actual. So that you can do some comparisons there. I will do my best to answer questions over what's happened in the past, but some of those we may need to get back to you on.
Lisa, sorry to interrupt, but I have to say this is a great way to present this information to council. So thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. Yeah. The presentation's a bit longer, so it won't go through in 20 minutes, but it will there. And I'm going to ask if someone can grab a pen for me in case I have to make notes as we go through this. You'll need it. Okay, it's okay. Thank you. I've got one here. Thank you. I just realized I forgot that. So one of the areas is management and reception services. And so you see here that the increase over the year is $45,000. What I want to do is talk about what that primarily is. This is the area that it basically, when you think of the operation of Parks and Recreation out of Echo Center, it's the reception staffing, program secretary, myself. It's the equipment rental, office supplies. It's the marketing, advertising. All of that is in this one area. So whether it's marketing constructing the Multiplex. This all comes out of this particular area, and it's also where the reserve for equipment replacement is charged. In this particular area, the significant increase is $40,000 in wages for the replacement of the Perfect Mind, the class software, the registration software. So the IT manager the other day when he did his presentation talked about the new software, the cloud software that's coming in. This is going to revolutionize how we, and I use that word by choice, is how we deliver services based on this opportunity to change over to a new method of doing business. And so while his budget indicated a $75,000 removal of what had been budgeted for this year, the actual implementation of that program is being charged to the Parks and Recreation budget. So while he had a 12% decrease in his budget, part of that is because the Perfect Mind implementation plan has come over here. It's not a choice. In order to effectively use the tools that we're being given, we need to go through what's called a discovery phase, where we are re-looking at every single process we have for effectiveness and efficiency and how technology can assist us, and training our staff to be able to serve the public. So that's the significant change there when you look at that. The department focus, I just want to say, in terms of this area of administration, there's two things that we're focusing on in this particular year. One of them is directly out of the council's strategic plan, and that's customer service initiative, and really focusing on citizen-centered service delivery, really looking at ensuring that citizens are part of the process and of delivering parks, recreation, and heritage services, and that we're really meeting their needs. And that includes the implementation of the new software that I talked about. The other areas we're really focusing on is revenue generation, again, out of your strategic plan. We've met, our programming staff and our building maintenance staff, all of our staff have met, and we've talked about different approaches, and we're looking at things like how to become more entrepreneurial. So things that we may not have charged for before, we may be considering. I'm not saying for sure we're going to do that, but we're looking at how we deliver our services. We want to ensure that in that revenue generation, it's important that increased involvement and support with our partners, so like the IHS and other partners that we work with. Cultural and sport tourism has been around for a while, but really wanting to ensure that we have a focus on that, and that also ties into economic development generation. And some discussion around regional opportunities and the whole focus on grants. And what we're focusing on right now is having all of our staff trained in grant writing. So I want to say a prime example of what just happened last week is one of our recreation programmers applied for a grant for Family Day, and we received word that we got $1,000 to support our Family Day activities. So when we have our whole staff trained in that and all of them doing it, we can maximize those opportunities there. Going to get now into some specific areas in the budget and buildings and facilities. When I go through this, one of the things is while we're talking about the physical buildings and facilities, I've also in each of those facilities included the recreation or leisure programming and social programming that goes there, so it's all in one place. There are a number of buildings and facilities that this department oversees, practically every facility in the city, this department has a hand in oversight. So quite often, while it's not in the specific Parks and Recreation and Heritage budget, it is our staff time and resources that are managing those budgets. So the first number of facilities I'm going through, they're not in the specific department budget, but we have budget responsibility for them. So the first one is City Hall. So under administration, you would have looked at a number of line items under City Hall, and I think one of the questions was, what about the maintenance budget there? And while it's in the City Hall function in the budget, it is our staff through our facility superintendent, Mark Zanko, that oversees the maintenance of this building. And as you can see, there's an increase in there that we're predicting this year for just over $9,000. However, we have 3 particular projects that are included in that part of the budget. One of them is a flagpole replacement, and most of you who drive up will see the flagpoles on top of the roof here. That is a health and safety issue. We're violating or putting our staff at risk every time we go out and change a flag because of the height and because of where they're situated. And what we want to do, and I'm not going to use the thing here because I might hit Councillor Powelson right in the eye, so I'm not going to do it. Sorry, wouldn't want to do that. But right in front of where the flower bed is, there is put the flags in front of City Hall, which again will be far more attractive and bring some color and movement. The other area is lobby light replacement, and so that's been discussed for the last year and has been included, and it's specifically the chandelier lights as you come into City Hall. And then a requirement for carpet replacement in the engineering, and I've got some pictures in there. You can see where it looks pretty tattered when you walk down, so the image in the department. And there's also tripping hazards in terms of the carpet needing to be replaced there. Another area, and we'll be looking at whether we can afford it in this year's budget, but it really needs to be done, is an evaluation of asbestos in this particular building. We can't do any renovations until that asbestos assessment has been done. The next one I've put under city buildings other, and two line items there. One is what's just called a maintenance expense total, and that's for other buildings, and you can see the bottle depot there. In your original budget, it had more money in there, and that's been changed, okay, to reflect that down to zero. That in the engineering department's capital budget is that building slated to be demolished this year in the capital. Other buildings that come under that particular line item is Abbey Field and the North Island College facility up on Tebow. And so they fall under that in terms of oversight of them. The other one is the animal pound operation, and that might seem strange that it's in there, again, because in the past we've had more of a maintenance relationship with them, but they've taken over a lot of that, but we still provide some oversight and support in that building. The vast majority of that line item is the contract with SPCA, and that's overseen by our city clerk. We then come to city buildings RCMP, and so our staff are responsible for supervising all of the building requirements in terms of maintenance and upkeep of the RCMP detachment. The increase you can see there is just over $4,000. Of that, $3,500 is utility increase. And you'll see throughout the budget, I'll be pointing that out. Of that increase in our budget, over $28,000 of that is due to increased utility costs. And so those are things that are outside of our ability to deal with, actually. The next area, and again, this is one that you would have seen during the engineer's budget presentation, and that there's three line items under city cemetery maintenance, and our parks department is responsible for one of those line items in terms of maintenance expenses. And you can see a list there of the things that we do in terms of supporting the cemetery. The last building before we get into actually parks and recreation and heritage buildings is Harbour Quay. And you can see there in terms of Harbour Quay is and on these particular buildings, I'm also including a recovery percentage. And we see that we are expecting to be actually decreasing our costs. So this is a good news one from the 2015 budget. Now on to city facilities. Gyro Youth Center, while it there's not a huge increase here in terms of the $655 more we're expecting. This facility is not staffed. However, it's a very popular facility for rentals and for youth programs and fitness programs and seniors programs. And a great partnership with the Gyro Club. In this past year, the Gyro replaced carpet and also did a kitchen renovation for us. And this year we are going to be approaching them to see if they will replace the windows in the facility. You will see in the capital, when I talk about the capital budget, a request in there in 2017 to look at renovating this building further Echo Center is bursting at the seams, and this is a building that could be far better used for programs. And if we did some renovations of the basement and making it more usable for programs and that type of thing, is something that you'll see in the 2017 capital budget. Echo 67 Activity Center. There is an increase of almost $10,000 in this particular budget. Of that, utilities increase is over $5,000 of it. And the other thing that we've put in there is the purchase of a steam cleaner. And steam cleaner not only would be used at Echo Center, but throughout our facilities. And again, this is put in there around to increase efficiencies and effectiveness within the organization. We've had a steam cleaner that lasted for about 20 years, and now we're in the process, we contract out our steam cleaning. And one contract to contract out the steam cleaning cost us $1,000. So when you think of, and that was just for Echo Center. So you can think how those costs over a period of time would continue to increase because of the traffic areas we get within our facilities, and our desire to ensure that our facilities look neat and clean and appealing. That's definitely a need that we have within our area of Echo building maintenance. In terms of Glenwood Sports Center, it has a significant increase here in terms of over $20,000. What the request for there is to do interior painting within the facility. You can see a picture there where there has been over the years minor painting done, and it would look a lot better in terms of spruced up, in terms of paying attention to that. We also believe, I had mentioned earlier, the newest facility we have is a pickleball court, and we're getting lots of requests for indoor pickleball, and so are currently looking at, and I think some of the other users might panic if they're watching this tonight when I say this, is we're looking at how we can accommodate more users in that facility. So we could accommodate tennis, floor curling, and pickleball. That would also involve repainting the floor in terms of the lines, and we would be working with our partners on that. But we see a real potential for increased use and revenue, and also meeting a pretty vocal need in this community around a desire for pickleball. One thing I do want to say back around when I talked about Echo Center, sometimes people have a misperception about the Sunshine Club and believing that they get the center for free. I need to tell you the Sunshine Club pays the same rate as anybody else in the community. And last year they contributed $65,000 in rental to use the facility. So whether they're using Glenwood or any other facilities, they pay the going rental rate for use of those facilities. Next, I'd like to talk about Dailey Stadium. In there, again, just a minor increase, but one of the things that I do want to talk about, because I'm sure that you've heard about it and people are talking about it, is in the recent past, we had the track resurfaced, and there are some issues. You'll see one of the pictures there of the delaminating of the track, and I just want to assure you that that is being dealt with by the contractor and the organization that put it in, and it is under warranty, and so that will be addressed. The Aquatic Center. I'm going to talk here a bit about the Aquatic Center currently, and then later in the presentation I'm going to be talking about a new Aquatic Center. And I need to tell you that we're in a bit of a quandary in this balancing act about maintaining a very important facility within our community, and at the stage of when are we going to or are we going to have a new aquatic center? And so this one I'm talking about, these things we're talking about are important to keeping this facility operational in a safe and attractive way while we make that decision and that transition. So in this particular area, you'll see that the budget increase is over $48,000. I had mentioned at the start of my presentation that we did a change in implementation in our management structure and facility managers. So partway through last year, the Echo facility manager was hired. So this represents a full year of salary for that position. And I need to tell you that the work that that position brings to that facility is immeasurable in terms of looking at efficiencies and ways of structuring, scheduling, etc. That 48,000 is offset by a $20,000 grant from the ACRD, and I've included it in here so you're actually seeing when those contributions come in, what they're offsetting. And that when this position was first created, we worked with the regional district to have the person in this position also oversee the emergency social services for the emergency operations plan. And it totally makes sense because it's going to be recreation facilities and recreation staff who are best aligned to open up reception services and those types of things during an emergency. So that's a contract we're delivering with the regional district. Under maintenance, there's a number of items that are brought in here, and I've put them on a separate page here, and unfortunately the lighting in here doesn't allow the people in the audience here to see what a terrible state some of these the facilities are, and the reason why there is a need for investment into the current pool. But I'm sure on your iPads you have a better look at it. And one of them there is, the first picture there is the women's change room partitions that need some work done there. And then each year our pumps are assessed and sent out, and these 3 pumps are ones after last shutdown are talked about that they need to be replaced this year. And as well, the sauna benches are what we've planned within the shutdown for repairs this year. Again, to note that we'll be doing a 4-week shutdown as we did last year to ensure that the pool is maintained in good stead. Coming to the multiplex. In terms of the multiplex, $33,000 increase. And there's 2 primary reasons for that and a request in there. And one is the utility costs alone for the multiplex are increasing $12,000. The other is we have a recreation programmer who works part-time at ECHO in terms of doing sports programming. And what we'd like to do is increase that programmer's time to focus on increasing revenues at the multiplex. And these would be non-ice opportunities for increases in revenue. We've talked about what are ways that we can use the multiplex when their ice is not in. Looking at revamping our skating lessons at the multiplex, as well as specific special events. And the question might be, well, you have a manager up at the multiplex in terms of them being able to do it. Part of the reorg in terms of looking at effectiveness and efficiencies was bringing the day-to-day maintenance under the same person who's responsible for programming. And so that's a huge workload, and that particular, all of our staff are maxed out, but in that particular area, there's some work that needs to be done on those areas that we have not looked at before. And I think there's real opportunities in terms of the non-ice time in terms of looking and also looking at special events. Echo Park Complex. This particular facility is staffed. We get a fair number of renters in there. The increase here is primarily, again, for utility costs. And in the capital budget, the add-on capital budget that's not in your financial plan is we've included some money in there for renovations to this particular facility. I would suggest that this facility is ideally located within our community. It's in a beautiful location in Echo Park. The setting, and if we had, did some upgrading of it in terms of carpets and tables and some technological upgrades, blinds, that yes, that we would be able to market it a lot more as a training workshop center, those kinds of things. And I really believe, and our staff really believe, that the potential for increased revenue from there without additional cost to the building, we need to maximize that. And there's a need for that type of rental space within the community. The carpets in there and the furniture in there is from 1992 when we first hosted the summer games, so it served us well, but it's looking shabby. And so in order for us to market it, it'd be important to make some changes there. The other area in this particular section on facilities is park buildings and field houses. And so these are the park caretakers, and we have a number there. Primarily the increase here again is utility costs, and I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of that particular area. Next, want to go into parks, playgrounds, and trails. And again, there's a real diversity in what this very small crew is able to do for our community that we all take such pride in. I think we can take great pride in our trail system and the parks and playgrounds that we have. In this particular area, the increase that we're looking for is $43,000, and that's made up in a number of different areas. This particular budget area includes the management services, parks maintenance, the horticulture services, the parks vehicles they use, upgrading, and equipment. So everything that is done around those spaces in our community comes out of this area. The increases we're looking for in terms of management services, you'll see there's approximately a $10,000 increase in there. And that's to contract services, and so I know it's the bad word around here in terms of consultants. However, Mr. Kenny, who was the director of previous to me, had some amazing talents and skills in landscape architecture and design that the city no longer has. And as we continue to do trail development and park development, we're going to require those services, and we'll need to be getting them out of house. And in a few moments, on one of the slides when we get to capital, when we talk about Millstone Park, you'll see some of the work that Scott was able to do in-house for us that we know, as I said, no longer have that capacity. Wages under horticulture are increasing approximately $10,000, and that is in terms of as we increase, especially along Johnson Road, planters and other beautification schemes, it will take during the summer additional seasonal staff to support that. The parks upgrading in the particular budget that we're looking at here is some upgrading around the lawn bowling path that connects Echo to the lawn bowlers. River Road water access as well is an important part. We've included some of it here, but as well in terms of the capital. And Paper Mill Dam, there's some erosion, Paper Mill Dam in terms of along a pathway, improving that. So Jacob just kicked me if I'm getting it wrong here. So that's the facilities part of it. Okay.
Sorry. Questions before?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Paper Mill Dam. For the upgrades, I understand about the trail and all that, but the residences at all these parks and all that, does that fall in a separate department?
This is here, Parks, Building, and Fieldhouses is right here, this particular budget. And so this is all of the Fieldhouses fall under this, in this area. And in terms of addressing, we do minor repairs and those types of things to the field houses. And that's, you can see the budget there. We're not asking for much increase. In fact, the majority of the increase is utility costs.
Okay, and inadvertently, can you tell me if there's been any upgrades to the residents at Paper Mill Dam? Because I know there was some issues there for a while.
There are some issues that I've heard about, and we are addressing the issues as we move forward. That doesn't mean necessarily that there's upgrades, but we are taking it in hand and addressing the issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Teresa.
That's okay. So just move forward. So now moving on to programs and services, and the width and breadth of programs and services is immense and incredible. And I think that if you don't have a young family, then you may not be realizing what's available for young families. If you're not a senior, you may not realize that. But it is really quite incredible, from the programs at the museum through to all of our different facilities. And so we'd just like to talk a little bit in terms of those particular areas. I'm going to start with heritage and culture. And what you see in front of you is the work that the museum has done over the past year in terms of the reach that they have in the community, connecting with volunteers, connecting with partners, and in terms of mounting 3 major exhibits in the past year. Very well done. In terms of the heritage and culture services, I'm pleased to say that their budget is actually showing a decrease of over $20,000. One of the things that's different in here from your original budget you saw is that the revenue has been increased by $5,000 here in terms of the request through the provincial grants. As well, what was different in 2015 and continue in 2016 is through the federal government summer student grants we've been successful in receiving. In terms of the reduction, where that's happened, and you'll see that it comes out of primarily under the industrial collection line item there. And I'd just like to explain what's happened in 2014-15, why it's a reduction in 2016. 2016 is getting back to normal. In 2014, the city, in terms of their responsibility for the collection that they own, is and contributed $10,000 for the steam donkey. In 2015, that budget includes $20,000 for painting the train station. And so this year there isn't anticipated any of those types of costs, so that's where primarily the savings has come in there. Again, to note, the Industrial Heritage Center utilities there for the year, $20,000. So some of those costs do get quite high. And again, I included in the presentation an overview of some of the initiatives, again, that Heritage and Culture is involved in, and really want to acknowledge the partners through the Heritage Network and through the other societies within the community around how the museum supports the work that they do, and they do for the betterment, those organizations, for the community and the impact it has in our community. Moving on to leisure services. I think recreation programming and delivery of leisure services is really important to our community. I just have included in there some of the principles that we use when we're looking at what programs we develop and how we utilize our staff and our facilities. We focus more on learn to levels, looking for ways that we maximize the use of our facilities and play spaces. Really important that we work with partners, and that we're really focusing on recreation for everyone. And I want to acknowledge the 3 pictures that we have down there. And the first one is this summer, we partnered with the RCMP to conduct a survival program, which was really well received for the number of kids at risk were in that program, as well as other young people. Archery has just taken off in terms of involvement with the local organization, and offering a number of levels of archery. And parkour, again, is a program that looking at ways of attracting kids to get involved in a variety of different things. One of the things, our focus for 2016 that I think is really important is physical literacy. And you'll see that in our upcoming leisure services guide, that physical literacy undermines everything that we do and kind of the foundation, and that if kids aren't active from very young age in terms of both structured and unstructured play, the research is showing in terms of the health issues, the costs, and those types of things. So we're really leading in the community and bringing together another number of partners in health and other sectors around physical literacy. Youth leadership, we have a very good youth leadership program during the summer, and we're working to have that year-round, of engaging youth in a variety of leadership activities. Outdoor recreation, and this is an exciting initiative for our department, is the exhibit at the museum starting in May. We'll be focusing on outdoor recreation in terms of from a historic perspective, and bringing people both to the community and how the community was used. And all of our entire department is focusing this summer on outdoor recreation as it ties into both heritage and moving forward into the future. One of the projects that a number of staff, including our departments, working on is a trails mapping project to really highlight outdoor mapping. And as well, I'm really focusing on volunteer support. And so one of the things that we've started to do, and this is not to take over from any other organization doing it, but we keep hearing time and time again, there's no calendar of events, or there's a directory. Out of Echo Center, we will now be, and are working on, maintaining a calendar of events that people can, it doesn't replace alberni.ca, but it will be more in a calendar format. And so we're reaching out to groups now to initiate that. And it won't be online interactive, but it will be online. okay? As well, a directory of who's who in organizations. So again, that's a request we get all the time, like who's the president of such and such, what are all the organizations. So currently our staff are updating that directory. And as well, and I'll talk a little bit more under community development about training initiatives to support volunteers. This is our leisure services budget, an increase of $21,000. And the majority of that is in terms of when I mentioned about increasing the full-time or the part-time programmer to full-time and doing some of the work at the Multiplex, also doing some of the grant writing and support here, so that his wages are divided out between the two facilities. Fees and charges, it's one of the ways that we generate revenue. And last year, former director recommended 0 admission increase for 2015, and I'm recommending that again this year. However, that's something that we usually don't look at our fees and charges to come before council for approval till July, and so something we can look at. However, I'm recommending, given the economic situations within our community, it's not a recommendation I have to increase the fees. Regional district grants, and again, this is actually the same slide that was shown last year by Mr. Kenny. And the regional district does contribute to recreation. The per capita amount is approximately $12 versus the city per capita of $175. The regional district directors made it very clear back in 2011 that they were not interested in increasing that at all. And so I think that's a matter of discussion with council and the regional district, as well as I think we can talk about ways of structuring the regional district partnership. And another thing our programming staff is looking at is ways to partner within the region for program delivery and that, so that our presence is more felt in the region as well. So some exciting things that potentially that we could do. And I'm not going to suggest it's going to happen, but has anybody ever thought about maybe we offer some swim lessons out at Sprout Lake? You know, you start to think of those way of things, and it supports the whole community and creates a stronger relationship with the region. The other program, that's a very important program to our community, is again recognizing the economic status of a number of people of our community, is the H.E.A.R.T program, which is where we subsidize recreation. In 2015 alone, 340 families participated in H.E.A.R.T. Of those, 817 individuals. And each one of those individuals has access to 52 admissions per year to our recreation facility. So we believe it's about 70% of those people took advantage of that. So we're looking at over 20,000 admissions through the H.E.A.R.T program. And our programs, what we subsidized was up to, just you see the number there. I want to say that we don't subsidize 100%. We allow a child on a H.E.A.R.T program to take one registered program for up to 100%. These here is most of it's 25% or 50%, depending on the usage. So that $5,700 there from people who live in poverty is actually generating other revenue for us. And a very important program. I want to quickly talk about community development. The Parks and Recreation and Heritage Department has always done community development, but there's some of the things that I was doing in my former position that have been brought over. And one of those is the Community Investment Program. And the Community Investment Program, as you're aware, because Council approves it and Councillor Powelson sits on the committee, for 2016, we've allocated over $38,000. That allocation allows not-for-profit groups in this community to have utilities covered, bus passes, swim passes, and in some cases, cash grant. And so the increase there is looking at $1,800 to continue on very minutely expanding that program. The other area, in the budget, there's $2,000 allocated on a line there under community development, and that's for, I'd mentioned earlier, one of our focuses is on volunteers and supporting volunteers. Last year, we offered a board governance workshop for not-for-profit organizations, and we can want to continue to do that. And at the end of February, we're actually having a meeting with all the not-for-profit groups, inviting them to talk about ways our department can support them. The initiative of the community calendar, the initiative of the community director is actually to support those groups in the work they do. We all know, or we keep hearing, that not that it's necessarily a crisis, but there's issues in terms of the volunteer community on recruitment, on people aging out, all of those things. And when you think of all the services that are delivered in our community through volunteers, if we don't do something to support and help that, there's going to be a loss of a lot of services and a higher cost to the community by not having those services. I'd like to turn into the capital budget now. This is an overview of the items in our capital budget, and for some of these items I'm going to be calling on some of our staff to talk more about, so you get intelligent information. The first one, though, thing I want to do, though, is address some of the works in project, capital projects that didn't get done last year. And I know that we never like to say that we haven't accomplished something that we set out to, but I just want to bring you up to status in terms of where we are on those projects. This one is the exterior cedar siding, and as of yesterday, the finance director approved the awarding of the tender, and so that will be moving forward. The other one is the Bob Dailey Fitness Circuit, and all of the equipment has been purchased. You'll see in the picture there, the equipment in the boxes, and you'll see the location, and we're simply waiting for weather when we can install that equipment. So it's all been spent out of last year's budget. It's simply the implementing the project. The other one in the 2015 capital project is Millstone Site Park. And you'll see there that's somewhat I talked about earlier, Scott Kenny's work that really helps to bring some of these projects together that we will need to be using outside resources for. But I'm going to ask Jacob just to talk a little bit about here we're waiting, we need more money, and so we're going to be pursuing additional grants and donations. But Jacob, if you could talk just about the decking.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and Council. Yeah, interesting little spot. The moving of those blocks is quite a big cost to it, and some of the other components that we have there to move the old focal point sign that used to be up at the Chamber of Commerce office, and then some interpretive, I believe some First Nations interpretation areas there is kind of our idea. We'd like to move a little bit on the observation deck, in that we've got very narrow windows as far as fisheries for putting in some piling, and then we've got all that sort of work done, cleared to go. And by getting a little bit of a toehold on that site to show that we're actually starting somewhere, there's been a substantial donation of benches and tables, which I'd like to get out. But yeah, there is still a bit of effort to bring that park into being.
Thank you.
I know some of the organizations or companies that have donated time, cash, supplies, what have you, they're still fully committed, and they just need to be given the nod. Just let's go. So.
Yeah, and when Jacob talked about the viewing deck area, we will be going to out for donations to support that and help that as well as a start to getting that in there. Okay.
What grants and donations are we on for?
We are pursuing a Canada 150 grant. There's been some changes in the guidelines for the Canada 150, but we're still pursuing it. And we'll be looking at different pieces of it. The viewing deck is one, going out to service clubs or other groups in terms of doing that. The money we have set aside, we recognize is not all that we need. And so it's good to have it in reserve there and starting moving forward and recognizing that this will take time. But we do need to see some action because of some of the donors around the park benches and that type of thing, so that people see that it is coming through. Mm-hmm. We're not sitting there twiddling our thumbs on this. It's just in terms of what's needed. One that's work in progress and in the capital project of this year is the Harbour Quay clock tower. It was approved last year, $25,000 for repair and removal plan. We are working with the engineers on that. Again, it was one of those projects that due to time and due to not having some of the resources in place, staffing resources in place, has been delayed. And the $250,000 repair removal has been put in the 2016 capital budget simply because it was moved forward last year and into the budget and moving forward. So that will be a council decision point there.
Wasn't there an application made to the Canada 150 for that?
Yes. Yeah.
And have we heard back?
Yes, unsuccessful.
Okay.
It was under the Canada 150.
Jamie, do you want to come up here because of the,
Sorry, I should
Yeah.
do that.
no, yeah, just because of the online stuff.
Thanks, Teresa. Mr. Mayor and councilors, the application was one of the last initiatives done by Scott Kenny. It had to be in by the end of July, I believe it was, and there was a long review period. That was strictly the Canada 150 infrastructure grant program, which ended at that point. The Canada 150 that we're applying for on the Millstone Park project is an ongoing continuous intake program. But with that one, the notification just came about a month ago, I think, that it was unsuccessful for the infrastructure grant application. That was the one that was intended to rehabilitate the whole Harbour Quay and rebuild the clock tower.
That's too bad. I was hoping.
It should have been, logically, it should have been one that flew. It was a good submission, and it was a good project for the community.
I think there aren't very many other cities in Canada that have a birthday on July 1st, just like Canada does.
That's
So
true.
to me, it was a logical one for us as a city. But
And we'll continue to look for other sources.
Yeah.
Just one more question, Mr. Mayor. Is there actually being considered right now if we actually push that, or is there a safety concern, or the deterioration, how bad is it getting
No,
to?
it's not yet a safety concern. Thank you. It's unsightly, but it's not yet a safety concern, and we monitor it, on a fairly regular basis. So that's one of the things that I do want to retain the engineer for is to do some core samples on the wood itself, just to see how the extent of the rot and whether some of that or most of it can be reused, or it's just some pieces might need replacing. The steel structure itself, it could be renovated, or it might be cheaper just to tear it all out and start again. That's part of the reason that we want to retain an engineer to determine those things as well.
okay, thank you, Councillor McClellan.
Yeah, the $25,000 we budgeted last year, what was the results of that study, and who did it? Do we have a bid on that, or how did that happen?
No, that's, we've talked to the local engineer, McGill. He was going to put together a proposal on, I explained to him basically what we had and what we're looking to do, and so he's going to put together a proposal for me on that. Depending on what his price is and the extent of what he thinks needs doing, we may go to alternate engineers as well. So that's a feeler that I put out there just for one engineer at this point.
So to be clear on this, the $25,000 from last year has not been spent. So this is one of the projects that's why it says 2015 work in progress and 2016. And that's where council will need to make a decision in terms of, and you'll probably need to wait for information about coming back from that repair and removal plan. So what is in it and that kind of thing. So the $250,000 is just carried forward from the 5-year budgeting plan from last year. I think it's important because it is such a focal point in our community that it's kept in there and not just shuffled off. So that's why we brought it forward again for consideration.
Right.
I also think it's important for council to make a monetary commitment at some point, so that if we are chasing grants as well, we can say without delay that yes, we do have some money that we are allocating to share in that project, right?
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't know if we have to take it down yet or not.
No, we have not completed the removal plan. Okay. The next one in 2016 capital budgets is McLean Mill Capital Projects, and this is $25,000 that comes from the ACRD every year. This money is to be used on physical structures as a capital project, and it's based on a priority list from the IHS.
Thank you.
The other one in terms of capital projects is a playground upgrade. And this year we're looking at wanting to do River Road Park. Tell my age in terms of calling it River Bend Park. Okay, River Road Park. And the reason why that's been picked as a priority is in conjunction with improving water access. That's in the operating budget. I alluded to earlier is there's erosion and issues with fisheries and that type of thing in terms of just making that access a lot better. I'm going to call on Jacob Colline to talk about the trail projects in the capital budget.
Mayor and Council, we'd like to carry on with the work that we did last year in the Scott Kenny Trail. That's the trail up from the Fall Fairgrounds down through to Tebow and Cherry Creek, and with the spur out to the SPCA. What we'd like to extend through next year will be from the second bridge up to 10th Avenue. In conjunction with that, a third bridge crossing from the 10th Avenue entrance location across to the other side. We already have the one bridge section down by the second bridge. I would be certainly entertained if council members would ever like to have a bit of a tour of the work that we've progressed there. Certainly open to that. Yeah, that would be an additional, probably about an additional 1,000 meters of trail in the section that I just talked about. Work that we completed last year was just over 2,000 meters of trail in that area. And then there's a section yet to the SPCA which needs to yet be capped. We were only able to rough it in. And the other item was on Lower Dry Creek, kind of tying in with the flood abatement work, is to replace a bridge that used to be there. We have one of our bridge sections in place there, and that'll be just a crossing, and then that will tie in a trail up to 10th Avenue on the curling recreation park side.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Other capital projects are involved the Aquatic Center, and this is I talked about before in terms of the dilemma about maintaining our current pool and moving towards a new pool. These are two projects. One is the diving board, and it's not actually the diving board, but the supports, the fulcrum and hardware, and you can see it on the side there in terms of it is becoming a safety issue. And then as well, our starting blocks are starting to rot out as well. So those are two items in terms of being able to maintain the facility. I'm sure a question that someone may have is, can these be moved to the new facility? And the short answer, yes, but it's going to depend on how old they are when you go to a new facility type thing as well. And the next one, I'm actually going to ask Jacob to speak to this one too in terms of an additional brine unit.
Yeah, we found that the application of the brine on the roads is a very effective way of keeping the ice and snow and the in between times. We have a small brine unit which doesn't have a lot of capacity, and in conjunction working with City Works, they are kind of focusing on the main roads. We have a number of parking lots, and what we'd like to include is in our mid-size utility truck to have another brine unit, which would give us a bit more capacity and a bit more effective work at facilities like the Multiplex, RCMP buildings, and that we can get on those a little sooner.
Sorry, Jacob, I'll have you stay up here for the next one as well. Sorry.
Just one question about the brine unit. The picture that's up here is the one that we actually have at this time.
That is correct, the smaller pickup truck, yes.
And what's the estimated time to make getting all the major routes done and all that? How long does it take?
With our current
one, and we only have one, right?
The city has a number of larger trucks that are on the main roads.
Okay.
So this is more dealing with the facilities that are open during the times.
Okay.
So that can vary depending on what the extent of freezing or if it is a, freeze thaw day.
I'm just wondering why we can't use the other ones in the parking lots also. Is there a difference, or?
No, we are currently using them, but we've had a couple of occasions where the city is then busy with them, with their larger units doing the main streets. And then we're just trying to catch up with our little, our little tank there. And we'd just like to see a bit of a more capacity. You're not filling up so often. That's what we like to have.
And the truck that you see at the bottom there is where the brine unit would be, and in the past, it's had a sanding operation out of it, and it's to be consistent citywide in terms of recognizing that brine's more effective than spreading sand, and so being able to maintain that capacity to look after our parks and facility areas when Public Works needs to be focusing on the streets.
So just out of curiosity, would this brine unit be able to be used for hard surface paths as well?
Yes, the unit can be used for a number of items. We've used the other small unit for a couple of other applications of products. So yeah, they're very durable things to do exactly like that for dust control or something like that.
I'm just thinking, there's quite a number of places in the city where there's hard surface paths that are heavily used, and on days when it's icy or what have you, you wouldn't put a big truck on it. But that's not to say you don't need to get some sort of ice on it, or ice off of it.
Yeah, but the smaller truck is very versatile.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mayor and Council, on Bob Dailey irrigation. The center field is irrigated and it's quite a well-used site. A little problem that we've had on a couple occasions is quite a bit of weed growth around the outer park, which has a lot of flowers, dandelions and that. And I've had a number of approaches of people that are kind of concerned about the bees and the wasps and that. In order to sort of keep that somewhat under control by irrigating it, we're able to keep a heavier, healthier stand of grass around it. In addition, just the aesthetics of the site. During the heart of the summer, the whole site turns into a yellow bowl, and then we have the green grass in the middle. Like to look at that as an incremental improvement, but we just wanted to address that as an area we'd like to upgrade.
Thank you. Probably should keep Jacob up here, but the next one, I'll take Jacob and you can answer questions, is carrying on the work from last year in terms of the planters on Johnson Street as part of Council's focus on Johnson and beautification of the city. And so 32,000 would involve including putting irrigation in and looking at 1 to 2 blocks of the city in terms of the planters. One of the things that's important about this is if it is improved in budget is the turnaround time for creating the planters, actually physically building them, is 6 to 8 weeks. And so if this is approved, we may be coming to you for early approval so that they can get on and so that the plants are actually out there when you're wanting them to be. This is our last capital project that's in the budget, and that is a chemical storage addition at Echo Center. A number of issues with our current storage area is that our chemicals are stored underneath Echo Center, and you can see the doorway access to the basement of Echo is not a full door. Creates all kinds of risks and inefficiencies that when drivers deliver the pallets of chemicals, our staff has to help them hand load off the pallets, carry it in, then reload the pallets. And this is what the storage room looks like downstairs underneath Echo Center. So not the best place in terms of storage. And just to let you know, some of the chemicals that are stored under there are hydrochloric acid, granular chlorine, calcium chloride. So a number of issues and concerns we've had for a number of years. What we would be looking at is a facility out the back of Echo that is designed for the chemicals. And so I think there would be a payback in staff time, but more importantly is the risk. You can see there's water in that entrance going in there. That picture was taken yesterday, and the potential for flooding down there is significant.
So would you be talking about a detached facility or attached?
It would be out the back of Echo. I do have a picture at the end of this if you really need to. And we would be looking at something prefab so that when the new pool is installed, that it is being able to be moved and used in conjunction with that. As part of the budget process, you got a list of additional capital projects. The list, some of these are being carried forward from 2015. Some of them are new. I'll go through a couple of them and then I have slides on them. The Echo Park Fieldhouse upgrades I've already talked about. The Multiplex canopy is looking at carrying on the addition from the new Bulldogs addition and creating more usable outdoor space in terms of the inclement weather. Echo Park parking lot upgrade is carried forward from last year. I'm going to talk about in a moment the next two and the Williamson Park. So I'll go through these. This machine was purchased last year as part of the fleet within the park side, and one of the things at that time where we're not able to purchase was the blower attachment. And again, this would increase our staff's effectiveness and efficiency in terms of doing the job. We see that it could come out of the IRF fund. Next, Williamson Park Tourist Park was that we were asked to look in the possibility of what it would take to do some kind of dynamic tourist stopping park along Williamson Park. And so we did have a company just do a very quick diagram potential and give some prices that would cost about $350,000. I'm sure Councillor Alberni is watching and will be pleased to see this in. This came out of the Climate Change Committee, and I need to say, while it's in the additional items, we already were talking to the regional district about extending their recycling efforts and the multiplex, and so the regional district has agreed to give us $3,000 for installing a water bottle filling station at the multiplex, so that's already done. And so those are the kinds of things that we could see moving forward in our other facilities. So while it's in there, we're already making progress on it. I'm going to ask Mark to talk about the Harbour Quay sheet piling repair.
Well, this is the Harbour Quay was put in 1982, and I believe that sheet piling went in at the same time. It's I think 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch thick steel plating that is basically holding that north section of the quay together. It's compromised now. It's rusting out, and there are some holes in that piling. 2 years ago, that photo on the right-hand side there was taken, and that's basically the soil and the dirt and the fill from underneath the bricks washed away through one of the holes and created that cavity. Since then, we filled the hole up as best we could, jammed as much material in it, and tried to go for some heavier rocks to plug the hole. But I noticed just a couple days ago that some of the bricks around the outside are starting to sink in, and you don't really know how big the problem is until they collapse. We asked for $45,000. That is not going to be enough to solve the problem, but it will be enough to get started and hopefully attract some grants and some cooperation from the Harbour Commission as well. Because they share the same wall. It's our stops at some point and it takes off the Harbour Commission, so Airport Authorities, I should say. So I think that's one that's quite critical to move on, or at least apply some funding or commit to some funding too.
And then from 2014 capital projects is we've got two things on the list. One is the $40,000 towards doing some improvements at Canal Beach, some irrigation, and then again the request that was in the 2014 budget around the docking and the pier. And we've put those on the list again in terms of having dialogue with council around what's the city's position in terms of moving forward. We really do believe that at the very least that we need to do some site improvements and irrigation, and that but what we'd be recommending is in terms of looking at the pier and other items and amenities to that particular location.
Is there water to that site? Is there city water down there?
Yes, there is. And it's actually to the city's advantage to have that dead end flushed once in a while, so it does work well.
Okay, thank you.
So the big question, and I just put it in here, and I am getting close to finishing my presentation here, is the whole issue of the new Aquatic Center. And we've talked about the new Aquatic Center for a number of years. We have put it in the 2018 capital budget. And in order to be successful in that, though, we can't wait till 2018 to go, are we moving forward or aren't we moving forward? And yes, we agree in principle and that type of thing. The decision has to be made about what we're going to do, because whether it's 2018, 2019, or 2020, we need to start working now on doing that. So these are some of the issues at the facility now. In terms of our cinder block, there's issues with asbestos. So in terms of any work we do on the cinder blocks there, it's a huge issue. We now, in terms of work safe regulations, a number of things like our filter pit, et cetera, are now considered confined spaces. And so that is increasing costs around managing that in terms of staff time and the safety of our employees. The DE filtration system, we use diatomaceous earth, and there's issues around health and safety issues around using that particular product, and chlorine gas. And you're well aware of that in terms of the changing over in terms of the water system around. We proactively looked at getting rid of chlorine, and that yet we have a facility here that's very important, and so that's one of the issues there. Around building deterioration, while that picture of the water looks really nice, the gutters inside are actually deteriorating, and there's times that there's huge chunks of concrete that are coming off, and at some point they're going to fail. And we don't know if that's 2 years, 10 years, that type of thing. Rotting drywall, you see the picture in terms of in the fitness studio, in terms of its serving its life, and we do a lot to maintain and make sure that it's attractive, but you can only do so much. And then again, the issue that we deal with every year in terms of rotting pipes and the infrastructure, the beneath the ground support of that pool. I know it's not an easy decision, and it's huge, but it's at some point, that's the dilemma we face as staff. Do we come forward asking to fix some of these things and sink money into that, or are we looking forward to what we can do and make a decision on this? Mayor Rattan, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a brief question on the new aquatic center, and I see you got another slide there. My memory serves me, we had a motion or some agreement to put up a thermometer to say how much money we had towards it about a year ago. I haven't seen it, but it doesn't mean it's not there. Is there, am I mistaken? Were we just talking about it and didn't actually say, hey, go do?
We talked about it, but I can't remember if we did the actual motion.
Because we do have some money towards it, and
Yeah.
we were going to show that.
There were, in my recollection, and I did do research on it because I was requested around putting a thermometer out, and our staff did talk, and I did prepare a report. I think Mayor Rattan, you received a copy of that report regarding the notion of a thermometer and what it does to support or distract. Like, this is a project that's huge, and putting a thermometer out there is it's one method of calling for action. And so to have a thermometer up there that might be sitting up there for 5 or 6 years or whatever the length is, and is maybe incrementally jumping up, I don't think it serves the project well. If there's ways that you want to inform the public that you have done, you're proactive and you've put money aside, and we have $1.5 million in a reserve fund that's being directed, we can find other ways of doing that. But I'd be pleased to bring that report forward to council and have all of you see it in terms of that recommendation. Mm-hmm. Out of that, actually the mayor responded to that report with an email that was forwarded to me, and these next steps is what actually, sorry, Mayor Rattan, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but from that particular thing is these were the next steps of looking at what we need to do, and needing direction from council to proceed. Look to build support and partnership with the regional district, so have these discussions with the regional district now. We need to now establish a budget timeline, community engagement, and communications plan, which includes the thermometer idea and a way of really engaging the public. And if we look at the Multiplex as a huge success story in this community, it really was about engaging the community, and that it becomes the community's plan and that communications plan and who are the champions out there, and having it in the public's face in every way we can as we move this forward. And then as well, council to discuss what the city might be able to do to direct unexpected funds into this project, as you did with the surplus from the RCMP. And so I leave that before council for you to further that discussion and engage us and involve us so that we can carry out your wishes. That is the end of my presentation, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
It's probably the most urgent major project that we have is replacing that pool, and we have to make a decision on it. And something we've talked about, council, and I'm sure many people in the community have talked about it. But until we have this kind of opportunity, I don't think we truly have the chance to explain exactly how urgent it is. Because many people will go in there and see the surface, and can you still use the pools? Can you still go in the water? But you don't think about everything that goes to support there being water there.
Yeah, and I just want to really commend our staff in terms of the the level of cleanliness and the level of support, and the programming is phenomenal. And so yes, the public doesn't see some of the day-to-day issues that our staff deal with in terms of wanting to deliver a really good service to the public and take pride. It still is a good aquatic center. I don't want people to go away and be thinking, because it is going to take a number of years, we still have a very viable, important facility there that we need to maintain while we go through this transition, if we are transitioning to a new aquatic center.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, question. Councillor Sobey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I remember making a motion to save half of that surplus, so I'm watching that very much to make sure it's not touched. Because I'm fully supportive of the aquatic center. One thing I wanted to mention, I had a bunch of questions, but it could be asked later, is in the past we actually have for unemployment stimulus for students for having summer jobs involved with Parks and Rec and programming and all that. I don't remember last year us even having a budget for that.
We do, yes, we did have, I think 5. I'm looking to the programmers here, 5 summer students engaged in, and that is part of the leisure services budget there. We do apply for federal government grants, and we were successful with some of them. So things like our playground program, our outdoors program, those types of things are all run by summer students who are hired to do those jobs.
Thank you.
Councillor Minions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just want to say I'm very excited that you guys are taking on a calendar of events. That's something that the Youth Advisory Committee has talked a lot about, there not being sort of a central place where people in the community find out what's going on, because I think we do offer a lot more than people realize we offer. One other comment that we've heard over and over again with the Youth Advisory Committee is that there are not enough drop-in programs. And I know that there are challenges around doing drop-in programs, not knowing how many people you're going to have. But I think that's something that is sort of a trend that, we need to move more towards, especially, I know, for kids programs myself. It's a lot of, nowadays, people just don't want to commit to doing, 8 sessions of something. So that's something that's come up a lot. And my only other question was the non-resident rate. I thought we got rid of the non-resident rate last year. It's in your slide, but I'm just curious, is it only for specific?
We have, one of the things with the regional district buying into the recreation is at the level they do, is that the non-resident rate does not apply to them. But we still have people who are not residents of the Alberni Valley, who do not contribute it to, that the non-resident rate is there. I think from a communications point of view, it's good to have the non-resident rate there. It does, as I said, it doesn't get used much, but it is showing the differential between paying for the facilities.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say about the drop-in program, I agree with him, we'll look at that, but I also want to let you know that this year our Nights Alive program, we've changed it from a Saturday night only to Wednesday nights is a drop-in for youth at Gyro Youth Center, and they're getting a number of youth at that.
Thank you. Councillor Paulson.
Just to go back a little bit, we did some energy retrofits at the Multiplex, and I know that's a great thing, and most facilities on the island are doing that. And do we kind of have a feel for savings and how that's made us more efficient? And I think
I can get that
that's
information.
a huge investment,
That's right.
and I think if the public knew that it's working,
What I'll
be
do is get a
good.
report prepared for you, that there was a savings there that was accrued in 1 year, but Hydro is continuing to put the prices up, and
Certainly they will.
that's right, yeah.
And the only other thing is, having worked in Parks and Recreation, and I really, really want to say thank you to our maintenance staff. And being on the front lines, I can't believe how many times people from out of Port Alberni commented on the maintenance and cleanliness of our facilities. And, that goes right back to the old arena, which was way past its prime, but people will come into the facility and say, look at how nicely kept this is. And I think our staff really takes great pride in that aspect of the business. So I just want to, if you can pass that along to the staff,
Yes.
It's greatly appreciated. And I think that helps reduce maintenance
And I'd like
and
to
all
suggest
those
that there's a
things.
number of them in the audience here tonight, so it's good that
Yeah.
you're saying that
No,
directly to them
it's
as well. And I will
fabulous.
pass it along.
A couple of additional questions, Teresa. It mentions here, when I enlarge it and I can read it, there's a pool swimming, Port Alberni Swimming Pool Committee. Does
Okay.
that still exist, or is it?
No, that particular slide, it's back here, this one here. Is
Yeah,
that,
up on the top
that
there.
one actually is from the last previous 2-year budget presentations. This came out of the initial work to do some design thinking around the facility. So
Okay.
there was at that time, it's not in place. I would suggest that when I talk about mobilizing the community, that would be one of the first things to do. Look who the champions are,
Right.
get the public involved and engaged in that. So it's not driven totally by the city. And I would suggest that regional district participation in that is very key.
Yeah. Well, certainly a lot of people probably end up going elsewhere when they're wanting to swim, and then therefore they spend their time and money while they're doing that.
That's right.
At the same time. I'm curious, are you able to comment on whether or not there's an impact on the Fieldhouse of the skateboard park being that close to it, or?
Nothing that I've heard. In fact, anytime I've used it, it's quite compatible. And I'm not sure, Mark, if you've heard any concerns about the skateboard park and the incompatibility of Echo Park Fieldhouse.
No, I mean, it's got its challenges, but we try to engage with the youth as much as we can, and sorry.
You're on camera.
Etherland, the cloud.
There we go. We try to engage with the youth as much as we can and get them involved in making decisions around there. Just recently, we added an extra garbage can in there because they, there was a problem with some garbage getting developed or dropped around, and so they said, well, if you have one on this side of the fence, then we probably use it. So okay, we'll take you up on it. We'll put one there.
I'd heard recently that some of the older people that use the skateboard park were wanting to try and raise some money in order to expand that park. And so then it got me thinking, well, gee, if we were going to raise money, if the people in the community are raising money to expand that park, maybe there's another location that it could be that wouldn't be right next to an elementary school or what have you. It might be a more attractive, more convenient location than there.
Yeah.
I think that what Mark said is key about involving the users, and that particular site was selected with youth in terms of looking at it, and I would suggest that that would be open for discussion and be looking at.
Right.
My experience is we have not had problems with the Fieldhouse and with our uses in there, and one of the things that I really try to promote at Echo Center and other is inclusivity of all ages in very close proximity around the Fieldhouse. I can't speak to the school, but definitely around our facilities there. I think it serves us well for it to be in a fairly high profile place.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a great, that whole general area is the envy of many other communities, and so we're very fortunate that that's the way it's turned out. Council, any other questions? Public, any questions?
I think Councillor.
Oh, Councillor Washington, I'm sorry. You are so quiet over there, and you're just all off on
Thank
your
you,
own.
Mr. Mayor. First of all, Ms. Kingston, I'm very impressed with the report. Your heritage and culture decrease there is quite a surprise to me, but I mean, I'm very pleased to see it. I'm also pleased to see the support that you get from your staff, judging from the gallery tonight. So it really must be truly a wonderful place to work, and you should be very proud of these people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Paulson.
Sorry, I knew this didn't take 20 minutes, but just one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is sports tourism. And I think now is the time to reiterate that it's just not a revenue and expense on the screen here. There's far-reaching benefits beyond with ball tournaments, soccer tournaments, hockey tournaments. If we could kind of get a ballpark grasp on the yearly benefit to the community through sports tourism, and I know that will actually surprise a lot of people, because I know it's in the millions of dollars. It's not in the thousands. It's in the millions, and that goes along with the livability and hosting. So just a thought.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And one of the things that I had said around the focus of expanding the recreation programmers' time is for us to give a more dedicated focus to sport and cultural tourism. And I'd love to bring back a report on the impact of sports and cultural tourism.
That'd be fabulous.
Thank
Thanks.
Sorry, one more.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question from Councillor Alberni when you're ready for that.
Okay. Well, he can wait. He's not here to defend himself. One more question about Harbour Quay maintenance. I'm just curious whether or not there's a long-term plan to upgrade, for want of a better term, the commercial buildings on the north side. So that would be the side that has the chocolate shop and is now going to have the new aquarium and so on and so forth.
I will look into it and get back to you. That I can't. I know that we do have in, if you look in the capital project 5-year plan, and I'll put together a report for you, but there is in some money out, and I can't remember off the top of my head what year it is, for doing some upgrades down there.
Yeah, I can see sort of maintenance, but I'm thinking more
Yeah. Okay.
upgrades, changing windows and doors and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff.
So it's not in this year's budget. Right.
No. Okay. Public, any questions?
You have Councillor Alberni?
Okay, Councillor Alberni, yes. So easy to ignore him.
Yeah, he didn't mind. He says he only had a chance to catch part of it, but it was great. Always amazing to see how many programs we put on. Such a great service to the community. Loves the idea of offering swim lessons at the lake. One question, and then he has 3. He's not watching. Do we have more Johnson Road style planters in storage? Do we make them? Do we have them made? And how much do they cost?
If he was truly paying attention, he would know the answer to that question.
Mayor, councillors, we do not have any more in storage. We were able to utilize most of the planters on Johnson Road that we had, and the other ones were down at the Spirit Square in Harbour Quay, and those are also been irrigated. They range in price from the larger ones to about $1,400 each. The medium-sized ones around $800-900 each, and they're manufactured on the island in Nanaimo, and it does take a fair amount of time for them to be manufactured and cured before we can get them.
Okay, thank you. That's all his questions? Okay. Teresa, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, of course, I asked, and you didn't stand up right away, Malcolm, so. Okay, let's come and ask your questions, and before we move on to the next topic.
Penny Cody, Sprout Lake resident.
Welcome, Penny.
Also own the Carmore building at the bottom of Argyle Street. My question is around the planters, actually. So I wasn't sure if the Spirit Square was included in the budget for the flowers along Johnson. And also, part of my question is, my building actually has purchased some of the old planters, and I'm wondering if we could do a contract with the city for planting them and maintaining them through the city, through the summer. So I'll just leave that with you.
I'll get back
Thank
to you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Malcolm, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. First off, BC Arts Council request for $70,000. What did you have in mind for that?
I'll try and answer it, and then Jamie will. That is the annual operating grant that we get from the BC Arts Council to go towards operation of the museum.
Okay, thank you. The other one, you mentioned recreation for everyone, and you focused on a lot of trail talk here. Is there any plans for developing more water access for recreational purposes, non-motorized recreational purposes?
In the budget, we do have in the capital budget, as you saw, some items for Canal Beach. We also are in the budget around access to River Road Park, so increasing access there.
That would be access from the water side? Or just
No, not from the water side, no, from the land side.
I just want to specify the difference between near water, so I know, like, for example, the boardwalk plan, that's waterfront, but it's not necessarily water access, which I think is one heck of an opportunity we could pursue.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah, thank you, Malcolm.
Okay.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Don Dunbar from Huff Drive. I was up here last year talking a little bit about my concern with the contribution from the regional district towards recreation. And last year we talked about the amount that they were contributing, and I was saying that if we're going to move ahead with operating costs and construction, we really need to get them more on board. And I saw everybody pretty much shaking their head, yeah. And I see this year in the budget, it's pretty much the same as it was last year. And I'd just like to say that I utilize Echo Center, the pool especially, probably 6 days a week. And I see a lot of people there that I recognize from outside the city limits. And I think the fact that they pay $17 towards their taxes for recreation, is that right?
It's per capita, I think
Per
it was
capita,
12.
And people inside this community pay 128 or whatever. I think that that's way out of whack. And I think rather than just shaking our heads and yes, something has to change, I think we need to be very aggressive in pursuing that, as well as aggressively pursuing the whole idea of regional recreation so we can get our pool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if you want to comment on that, Penny, or not. All right. Please do.
Penny Cody, I'm the regional representative for Sprout Lake. I'd just like to point out that Sprout Lake has a parks budget. We have a park service, which we pay. We've got $120,000, I think, in our parks budget this year so far. So we do pay into other park services besides the city that we don't ask for city participation or any of the other areas either. So Sprout Lake residents pick up that cost. We have Cougar Smith Park, we have Faber Park, we have trails, and they are utilized by the city residents and other areas quite well. So just to say that we also pay into parks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Councillor McClellan?
Yeah, just one comment, I guess, on the sport tourism. Do we have a structured way of contacting the Chamber of Commerce particularly and any other business that is interested in or would be benefit by people coming in for sports, like soccer tournaments, softball tournaments? I was down in IMO for a soccer tournament. I understand next year or this year now it's going to be here. Some kind of World Cup pretender, and it had hundreds and hundreds of people there, and they're all running around shopping, buying stuff for their kids. And so hopefully that somehow we could notify the community that these people are coming and they can take advantage of it. It seems like we don't take advantage of what is here.
in the past, and Councillor Polson will be very aware of this, is we did have a sports tourism committee through Community Futures that did some training and put together packages for the not-for-profit organizations that run those sports. So we don't have a structured way within the city. I think the calendar of events would be very helpful in terms of doing that, and we can resurrect that sport tourism package for the local groups of who they contact and what they do in terms there. We don't have the staff resources to be putting together all of the package for every sporting event that happens here. We feel our role is to facilitate with the facilities and to do work with those groups to do a good job of it's in their best interest to have the community on board.
And economic development has also done a certain amount of work on that as well, making sure that there are packages available for participants and, maps and all sorts of things from Parks and Rec and what have you. So, yeah.
Yeah. We can look at it, in terms of what is realistic that our department can do.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for Parks and Rec? Okay, then we're moving on to the next item, Council, the Industrial Heritage Society. Mr. Hugh Grist, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Start off our opening slide. For those same age as me, the locomotive on the left is two-spot, which started this whole operation back in 1980. I'm glad to tell you I'm still around. I was involved in 1980. I'm still here, so I'm happy about that. We cosmetically restored it this year, and this is the first time it's been on display. So we've had it down the station quite a number of times. Is it just the first button? Which button is it?
So if you press that.
Oh, the right hand side. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Forward and back.
Why is it like that? Okay, these are our attendance numbers this year. Actually, the numbers a little bit down on some of the special events. And one of the reasons the numbers are down is some of the special events took place at the Industrial Heritage Centre this year. We had 3 or 4 events up there, truck shows and a smaller steam show. Didn't affect our revenue too much, but a little bit. What am I not aiming at it? I did. It was a sorry.
There, now you just
Okay.
went, okay.
I wasn't aiming at the right place.
Yeah, up here.
Okay. Just some pictures there. There's our JJ logging crew welcoming some younger generation helpers there. Trucks in the parade, which we always have a lot of vehicles there. Very nice restoration at the Industrial Heritage Centre of that wooden cab on that old truck. And there's another steam engine that's just been restored this year. It was operating and running off the old steam tractor that was restored the year before. So just some of the events that helped. Some of the accomplishments this year, we did run the Mayor's Steam Weekend, which was a tremendous display of steam power, probably the biggest in Canada for this year. We played host to a number of distinguished visitors. Lieutenant Governor Judith Guichon was here, Elizabeth May. We had a couple of travel culture shows on national, local television came out. A lot of students came to the mill, 345 grade 5 students in National Forest Week. We always have our Santa runs, Christmas trains, craft fair to the mill, Halloween pirate trains. Partnerships with the hotels in town and Home Hardware. Our ongoing partnership with Parks Canada for restoration of the major portion of the historic site, the Green Chain, Lumber Deck, Log Hall, Blacksmith Shop. We maintained our excellent rating with TripAdvisor on the web. We did manage to get some great donations from Probe and Logan Island Timberlands, which really helps our lumber side of the business. We've had this contra advertising program selling the Alberni plain lumber, Shore Cable and the Peak. And we also helped a bunch of other charities in town. We donated wood to the Young Professionals, Rolling Centre, office expansions for the Bulldogs, Ultimate Fishing Town, ADSS and so on. So small donations, but they all help out with local charities. There's Lieutenant Governor Judith Guichon in the cab of the locomotive, and there's the mayor and our crew that ran the train that day. We're going to continue those partnerships with hotels, and we also enjoy bus tour partnerships with senior tours, enjoy tours, cruise ships again this year, charters, service clubs. Special events are important, the antique truck shows, Beaufort gang robberies, Halloween trains and so on. The challenge race is going to be a major event this year. It's already got 57 entries in the race against the train. This is a 10K race where they run out to the mill, and that's going to be a much bigger event this year than last year. So Bill Collette will probably give you more on that a little later. We did run some more BCIT conductor training course practicums, and that's always revenue for the society, but also for the town, because these people stay here for the whole week. Excuse me. Continuing other partnerships with Woodland Flooring and Home Hardware, selling live edge slabs, and we have a BC Wood marketing program for live edge slabs and heavy timbers. Why am I having trouble with this thing?
To the side.
I am. Oh, on 2 now, did I? Here we go. To the first. Okay, our revenue for the year was down a little on emissions. The biggest deficit for us is actually not selling as much lumber this year as we did in previous years. Previous 2 years, we got 2 very big orders, which helped us enormously to get the revenue up. But anyway, the gross revenue was $448,000. And at this point, we're asking for the 2016 the same amount from the city. And I've been instructed that we should actually have you make a vote tonight. We're asking for $50,000 advance, so we have some cash to keep us the cash flow going until we get the approval from this budget. So maybe you want to do that now, or do you want to wait till after my presentation?
Let's wait till you finished your presentation.
Fair enough. Expenses, wages are actually a little bit down because we had a lot of that was actually spent on a few capital projects. Mill maintenance actually was down, but we had some pretty expensive costs. Propane, locomotive fuel are a big bill for us. Utilities, like Teresa says, they're always increasing. That's a big cost to us, and insurance is another major item at $35,000. That's a little deceiving because the insurance doesn't run on our fiscal calendar year that we have. And the same as some of the other things you'll see later on, our years don't match, so we don't get carryover funding. So we had a net deficit for the year of $11,750, which is absorbed by the society. We had an overrun last year, so we managed to cover that cost. This year I'm including a couple of additional slides, what I call capital and special maintenance. We haven't done this before at this time. We normally make a separate presentation individually. The reason I'm doing this is because we want approval for capital money as well at this point, and to make sure we get your contribution again for the Parks Canada matching funding. The section that applies mainly to the city and of course regional district is the top section, the McLean Mill infrastructure portion. We've got some major work to do there, and we use the money from the regional district, the $25,000. This year the city matched the Parks Canada money, that's $17,202. The Parks Canada put in $34,000, which is 50% of the project. The city puts in 25%, and we put in 25% of in-kind and lumber donations. And again, these figures are a little skewed because their budget starts in August and ours is January to December. So you can see that by looking at the very bottom. You'll see a carry forward of the right-hand column, carry forward of $22,483. That's because one of the major projects we were planning on doing capital-wise last year was the upgrade to the kitchen at the mill, which we really need to do for future. And we didn't do that last year. It's a priority for 2016, so that's why this money is carried forward. The other funding below is just to let you know that we don't just go after funding from the city. We have BC Lottery Corporation gaming funding 29,000. Again, their budget is approved in July, so it sometimes gets skewed. We have credit union, various Rotary Club, Alberni District Co-op have helped us out in various projects. And we've had private donations. BC Railway Historical Association give us $10,000 towards the restoration this year. We also get money from the Island Corridor Foundation for track work. So it's not just from the city we get our funding. It's quite a significant difference. That's 2015. Come on. There we go. Oops. Come back too many, have I?
Jake, can you offer it? Hugh, why don't you just get Jake to
That's a good idea.
forward it?
Go forward me one, please, Jake.
Forward.
One more. Well, there's the one more. You've gone too many. That's the one. This is 2016 budget recommendation. We're asking 25,000 from the regional district. We want 20,000 from the city, in additional to 25. And the 13,694 is the estimated amount for the matching Parks Canada grant. So those two figures are for the city. Again, you won't see the full amount in the Parks Canada grant because it won't apply till the middle of next year when we know exactly what we're going to get. But that's why there's a discrepancy in some of the figures at the end. Again, we're going off the Island Corridor Foundation for more money this year, $25,000. That's up from the $15,000 they've granted last year. We're meeting with them at the end of this month to get that money. We're anticipating $29,000 from Lottery Corporation for other projects. And that's about it. One more, Jake. Just wind up with a pretty view of the mill and what a wonderful place it is. And I'd like to ask for that $50,000 approach now.
So Hugh, on the left-hand side of this, the revenue capital special maintenance, is that 168,000 all related to the Industrial Heritage Society? Is any of it going towards the mill, or is it
Yes, 114,000 goes towards the mill.
all? Oh, I see, okay.
Subtotal there.
So only the 55,000 or whatever,
Correct.
54,000 goes towards, okay,
That's right.
thank you.
Lottery gaming funding cannot be used for city projects, so that's that's separate for all the industrial heritage projects.
You must spend a lot of time chasing funds.
We do, but we're not very good at it even then. And that's why as a foundation member, we had a grant writing workshop a couple of days ago, and it was well attended because we all need funds. And that's what we're hoping the new committee that's going to be taking over some of these projects for us will help us out.
Right. Right, okay. So then, could you, just for council, can you please explain, you've got some significant expenses right away, and you want us to look at a special motion?
Well, in previous years, I've just approached the city manager, and they've given us 50,000 advance on the 225,000 because we should have our wages and expenses and utilities to pay in January, February.
Right.
Our income doesn't come in until July and August.
Right.
So we need $50,000 to carry us over until you approve this budget.
Right.
If you may not approve it, we hope you will. So I'm asking for $50,000 to keep us going until your approval date, which is what, maybe February sometime?
Or later, yeah. Do you want to make the motion, Jack?
Yeah, if this is the time to do that, I would move that we advance some $50,000 in advance so they can keep operating. I understand oh, shut up. That's the end of the motion. Need a seconder.
Okay, council, I'll second that motion.
Okay, and just to comment on it, I was out there the other day. We were renting the facility for a meeting, and the propane was smelling real bad, and everyone said they're not going in there if it stinks like that. And it turns out the propane tanks are so low that you can't run it without it smelling. So And we do need propane. You got a lot of tanks out there, so I guess you fill them once a year or something like that, and we're just down at that time.
More than that.
More than
Once
that?
a year. How many times, Neil?
We got in the summer months when the mill's operational, we get probably a weekly delivery, obviously slows down.
You saw the bill.
I guess we'll have to buy a propane company or something. Anyway,
One of the capital projects was a heat pump for the facility there, rather than a propane.
You got my vote on a heat pump. It
However,
sure
the issue is
saved me
utility
money in
costs
my
aren't
house.
going down, the electricity goes up, so it's
Okay.
catch-22.
Okay, any further questions on that? Comments, council? Okay, on the motion, all those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
There we go.
Any other questions?
Questions for Hugh, council? Oh, you did a good job, Hugh.
Oh,
How about from the public?
I
Any
know that
questions?
you're getting tired.
Well, that could be too. Councillor McClement?
Maybe just one comment. Hugh, thanks a lot. My hearing aid's a little plugged tonight, and I didn't hear everything you said, but I think I got it figured. The our council will be discussing the board for the McLean Mill and that this next meeting and stuff, so we'll be coming and talking to you.
Great.
And there will be a McLean Mill meeting first week in February. I just talked to Rob Duncan.
Yeah, I'm excited about some of the things they're proposing, and hopefully get that revenue and the attendance up.
Yep.
In the next 2 years, anyway.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it happened in 2016, but certainly by 2017, I would hope. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm assuming no one in the audience had a question for you?
Don doesn't have a question for me? Not tonight. We're supposed to be playing table tennis together. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Council, is there a direction or request for information for subsequent meetings or that you want clarification on? No?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I probably got a whole slug of still down here, but I think considering the hour and so on, probably bring them up in advance of the meeting we're hoping to have for debating the budget and coming out with our priorities.
Okay, thank you. Then, anything else, council? Then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
All right. I'll second it.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.